I know where there's some, right here in the hall, clerk.
No, Molly, I have no.
All right, we've finally gotten as close to done as I'm going to get with this. As everybody knows, summer slows things down a lot, and it's been a busy one. So where are we? A couple of buttons. They're both really ugly, but they work. They work right now. I never have yet, I should say, to be able to perfect casting one of these buttons. And one of the reasons is the epoxy is really, when it's thin, it's really pliable, and it takes weeks for it to cure into any kind of hardness. When I first took this out of the mold, after it sat there for 72 hours, this was floppy. It's finally curing up, so it's stiff. But it has a bunch of voids in it, so it's no good. So that's been a challenge all along. Then the one that took the most time was the battery box. You may recall the battery box looked like the one that's on your screen right now. The battery box was in fact gone, and somebody had kludged together a way to hold 6 C-cells in there. And it, it was a fine kludge, except it was a kludge. So I ran across this picture of the original battery box, what it should have looked like on a radio museum, I believe. And I tried to recreate that. I started with these acrylic tubes. This is a 1-inch interior tube and a C-cell. If you ever need to measure a 1-inch circumference, a C-cell is about 1 inch. So when the tubes were separate, C-cells would slide right through there. But then I ground down as slowly as I could flat spots on 2 sides of each one of these to be able to join them together into a small enough space so they would fit in the radio. And it turns out that that bit of heat, and there wasn't much, but that bit of heat worked these, so they would no longer accept batteries. Well, they would. You had to cram them through there, and certainly the springs that hold the battery in place wouldn't work. So I had to set that idea aside and come up with idea number 2, which was to 3D print a battery box like this. So I had to dust off my old cheap 3D printer and design this on Fusion 360 and printed off, I don't know, 5 or 7 variations on it to make sure it would fit. In any case, it's finally done. Let me show you the result. It's in here. This is where the 6 C-cells go, providing 9 volts of battery or voltage for the transistorized circuit. And it's done. I declare it finished. One other thing I had to do along the way that I didn't shoot any video was I had to restitch. Oops, I had to take that off. I had to restitch the leather around here because it had all just come loose and was flopping around. So it's not the most attractive radio in the world, but it's finished, and it
promises. I know buyers.
This has a push-pull output like some good guitar amplifiers, and so it really.
It's not heavy as that. That's not actually the quote. Nope.
It plays a lot of volume. This is a very loud radio. The other aspect of it is the long wave feature. Recall that this has broad wave band and a long wave band, and this switch over here is to defeat the AVC, so that you can pick up remote navigation beacons. This radio is from 1958, 1959, and there are no more navigation beams in long wave. If you switch this to long wave, I thought it was broken at first, but if you switch it to long wave, you get an occasional something turning on and off. They're very susceptible to electronic noise. I can't run any of the lights in here without hearing them in long wave. But it's a fine little portable, heavy, luggable Zenith radio. And I'm happy to be done with it. It's taken a long time. And it took a long time because of summer and other projects that got in the way. I have a 1980 Volkswagen Vanagon that was in dire need of some servicing this year, so I got that. And paint. But I'm done with this. And it's alright. It turned out okay. I reproduced the dial. Got a new battery box in it. Fortunately for me, the electronics, I replaced all the capacitors, but the electronics were just fine and still are, and it's finished. So I declare it a finished project. I'm going to do a separate video on long wave broadcasting, just because I had never run into it before. I never had a radio that picked up the long wave band. I'm going to do a separate video on that, just to talk about long wave radio. And its demise in the United States of America. But that's it for now. Next time, it's a new project. See you then. Take care. Stay safe.